He came to the desk asking for towels. 10 minutes later, he was back, smiling through the glass, whispering the same words over and over. "I'm going to kill you." I worked the night shift alone. I wish I hadn't that night. I used to work at a hotel in my town, a job I now look back on with deep regret. A few months prior, a hurricane swept through the area, causing severe damage to many homes. As a result, a significant portion of the population temporarily relocated elsewhere. The hotel I worked at was about a 20-minute walk from where I lived. For privacy reasons, I won't mention the name of the town or the hotel. I'd really prefer this story not be connected back to me. It was your typical small-town bed and breakfast, nothing fancy. The kind of place that served soggy scrambled eggs, frozen sausage links, and a selection of boxed cereals. Following the hurricane, the hotel saw a brief surge in guests, mostly locals whose homes had been affected and were in need of temporary shelter. But after that initial wave, business slowed down, quieter than it had even been before the storm. I always worked nights from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Then someone would relieve me at 2 a.m., and they'd work till 10 or 11 a.m. I could always see how many people were checked into the hotel, and at the time, it was only maybe 9 rooms, which wasn't a lot at all. I could go the whole night sometimes without seeing anyone. There was a back break room for employees with a coffee machine, fridge, table, and a couple sofa-type chairs. The employee bathroom was also back here. At night, I spent most of my time back here. There was a bell at the front desk that people would ring if they needed anything. I was in the back when I heard a deep voice from the lobby saying hello repeatedly. I got up and went through the door, leading to behind the counter, and saw a man on the other side of the glass. There was a glass barrier with an opening underneath about 10 inches high. He said he needed towels. I grabbed him a couple of extra towels and slid them under the glass for him. He grabbed them rather aggressively, shot me this weird look, then walked to the room's hallway. I stayed in the lobby now, sitting in the rolling chair by the monitors, and I just watched that man on the camera walk down the hallway. He was looking around, weirdly. Then he started rubbing the towels on his face. I said out loud, "What in the world?" Then he got in the elevator. So I went back to the break room. It was maybe 10 minutes later when I heard a voice again from the lobby. It was the same voice. I walked back out, and that man was standing on the other side again. He said very loudly, "My key card is broken." I asked what his room number was. He said it was something random, like 2C, something with a letter in it. Our hotel room, strictly, had numbers, no letters. So I knew this man was lying. I told him, "Sir, our rooms don't have letters. Are you sure you're staying here?" His reaction was not something I was expecting, nor was it something I wish I ever had to be victim to. He threw the towels on the floor, started smiling, slightly tilting his head as he got closer to the glass. When his face was practically pressed up on the glass, he said, "I'm going to kill you," still with a smile on his face. Then he said it again, louder and again. Each time he said it, it got louder until it was almost a scream. I screamed back at him, "I'm calling the police," and I did. I grabbed the phone and made sure he could see I was dialing 911. That creepy grin never left his face. Instead, he started mocking me for calling the cops, like the whole thing was some twisted game to him. I raised my voice as I spoke to the dispatcher, explaining exactly what was happening right in front of me. Meanwhile, He let out a laugh and casually started heading for the door, completely unfazed. I told the dispatcher he was leaving, and once he stepped outside and vanished from view, I let her know he was gone. She asked if I still wanted an officer to come out, but I said no, it wasn't necessary anymore. After that, the rest of my shift crawled by painfully slow. For obvious reasons, I decided it was best to stay in the lobby for the remainder of the night, rather than retreating to the break room. Only one guest checked in during that time. Around 2 a.m., my replacement arrived. I clocked out and was finally able to head home. Stepping out into the parking lot, I felt the cold air hit me. I remember wishing I brought my coat. I walked with my hands in the pockets of my light jacket and my hood up. Then I heard a voice in the parking lot. I turned around. There was a line of bushes that covered the first floor windows of the hotel. It came from the bushes. I don't know what the voice said. I didn't care. I walked faster now. Once I got out of the parking lot, I was on a main road for a brief minute. But there were no cars on the road in this quiet town at this hour. After a minute, I turned left down a residential street that would eventually turn onto my block. It was dead silent out. Not even the sound of any distant traffic. Just the sound of my shoes hitting the pavement, and then the sound of someone else's shoes hitting the pavement behind me. Only it was the sound of someone running as if on their tiptoes trying to be quiet. By the time I turned around, they stopped. There was a car right behind me, and I almost knew that there was someone hiding behind it. I heard laughing, and then a familiar voice saying quietly, "I'm going to kill you, bitch," without even seeing him. I knew it was that man. I looked around, planning out my next move. I couldn't outrun a man, let alone wearing my work shoes. I looked at the nearest house. It had an upstairs light on. Someone was awake. I would go run and ring the doorbell for help. I looked back at the car, and I saw him, that man peeking his eyes out from behind the car as he inched around it to the front. When he got to the hood, the rest of his face and upper body were exposed, and I could see his disgusting, crazy smile again. I ran for the house, screaming, "Help me!" I made it to the front door and rang the bell at least 3 times. And that's when the man grabbed me and started choking me, whispering in my ear, "Die, bitch." In that moment, I thought my life was flashing before my eyes. And then an angel in the form of a man opened the front door to the house and screamed, "Hey," at the man choking me. The man's grip was released from my neck, and I fell to the floor. I never turned to watch the man run away, but the man from the house helped me up and brought me inside. He gave me water and called the police for me, and I explained the whole story to the police. They collected the CCTV footage of the man from the hotel and put feelers out to track him. I was called into the police station when they did a lineup of people who looked similar to the man on the CCTV footage, and I was asked to point out which man I thought was him. I stared at all 5 of them for what felt like 5 long minutes before finally saying that none of them were him. Maybe it was the stress, or maybe my nerves just got the best of me. But in that moment, I genuinely didn't recognize him in the lineup. Even now, I still wonder if I made a terrible mistake, if I let that man walk away free. But first, did you know that 98% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed? That means you. And yes, I am speaking specifically to you. Probably aren't. So now would be a great time to leave a like on the video and subscribe. Anyhow, I work in the pro department at a home improvement store, usually closing alongside another cashier. I'll call her Nicole. Nicole's incredibly kind, though a bit on the shy side. She's also really attractive, which tends to draw a lot of attention from the contractors who come through. Most of the time, it's harmless, just some compliments, or the occasional dinner invite, which she always declines politely. Honestly, I'd probably ask her out too, if it weren't for one important detail. Nicole has a girlfriend. Getting hit on by guys every day clearly makes her uncomfortable, though she tries not to show it. When we first started working together, I suggested she just tell them she's gay. But she always said that wasn't something they needed to know, so she kept it to herself. Over time, Nicole and I have become close friends. Having her there during those long shifts makes the job a lot less isolating. We even take turns covering each other's lunch breaks. It's a nice rhythm we've got going. One day when I came back from lunch, Nicole started telling me about this rather creepy guy who was. Flirting with her, she said she politely turned him down, saying she was with someone already, and while he didn't seem happy, he did leave. I shrugged it off as nothing more than the usual horny guy and laughed it off. But later that day, the man came back. Nicole wasn't there, as she had left to help a customer find some lumber, so it was just me. He looked rather normal, probably handsome to most women, but he acted off. After looking around the area, I asked him if I could help him with anything. "I'm here to see Nicole," he told me. I asked him how he knew her, and he said he had come in earlier and asked her out, to which he said yes, so he had come back in to pick her up. I told him she had left for the day, a usual lie everyone tells to cover for their friends. His smile went away as he started looking annoyed. He said he wanted to speak to Nicole and ask her out again, which contradicted what he had just told me about accepting his previous invite. I told him he could not do that, which caused him to cross his arms and ask me why not. I'm not the best liar when it comes to making up excuses on the spot. However, I didn't want to tell him Nicole was gay if she didn't want him to know it, so I just blurted out that Nicole was my fiancée. His annoyed look went to confusion as he asked me how someone as pretty as she is could go out with someone like me. I'm not a Jason Momoa or anything, but I don't think I'm that bad looking. I told him it didn't matter, and that her and I were getting married in a couple months, so he needed to back off. He gave me a death look, but didn't say anything. After an awkward silence, he left. After Nicole had gotten back, I told her what went down. She asked me to describe him, and after I told her what he looked like, she said that was the same guy who came in before. She was a bit creeped out by what went down, but she found the fiancé excuse rather funny. She even stated she'd rather be engaged to me than go out with him, which I'm guessing was a compliment. A couple of weeks went by, and we had all but forgotten about the man at this point. But one night, after it had gotten dark, Nicole and I were getting the trash together so we could close down the registers and go home. Just then, we hear a bang at the door, causing both of us to nearly jump out of our skins. It was the guy again. He had a wild look in his eyes as he kept his face pressed against the glass. "We're closed," I tell him, but he insists he needs to come in. Nicole yells again to tell him she's not interested and for him to go away and leave her alone. But he yells that he's not here for her. He's here for me. He then says that if he can quote UN quote, take out her husband, then she'd be all his. Based on that, he wanted to kill me. I tell Nicole to run to the manager's office and call the police, and I'll stay here and watch him. I won't lie, though. I was pretty afraid to be in that tiny little area if the guy's able to get in. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he could have had a weapon on him. Plus, the store doesn't allow us to have self-defense items on us, so I was on my own here. The guy then started ramming the sliding doors, like he was crazy. The doors were rattling, and I could have sworn we're gonna come off its base. Just then, Nicole comes running back around the corner with a 2x4 in her hand, yelling that the cops are on their way. Finally, the man decided to leave. When the police arrived, the closing manager met them and led them straight to the security footage. Thankfully, the guy was identified and taken into custody. Still, neither Nicole nor I felt safe working there after that. We're both still close friends and even go to the same college now, though we've moved on to different jobs while working our way through school. Looking back, I'm grateful she was with me that night. Who knows what that man might have done to me, or worse, to her. Nicole's told me she was glad I was there too. Just having a guy nearby, she said, often makes creeps like him think twice. The whole experience really opened my eyes to how dangerous it can be for women, especially when a guy refuses to take no for an answer. This happened just over 2 years ago, and I've been wanting to share it somewhere, mostly so I can look back on it someday and remember the lesson it taught me. It was 2016, and I had just landed a new job at a small motel. The pay wasn't great, but I was desperate for something office-related, and this fit the bill. A friend of mine, Michael, had helped me get the position. For a few mornings, I trained with the owner, learning the ropes. Then, for 2 nights, Michael took over and showed me how things worked during the evening shift. Our job was the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. Nothing exciting, checking guests in and doing paperwork. My boss, or the owner, went away with his wife on vacation for a week, which is attributed to the swift training I had to endure. So, it was my first night alone on the night shift. There was a monitor with security cameras around the motel's property and large glass windows all around the office building with a glass door. There was no night window like most motels have. It was fairly early in the night at about 1 a.m. I was just doing my normal check-in paperwork. That's when a man walks in and asks if we have any rooms available. Usually, if someone's sketchy, my boss has me lie and say no, but he seems normal at the moment. Without hesitation, I said yes, of course. Just for one? And he replies yes. So I begin creating the reservation on the computer when I notice he starts swatting the air and making spitting noises as if he's being surrounded by flies. I try to ignore it. As far as I'm concerned, it wasn't my business. So I try to check him into the room as quickly as possible. I give him his key, and he's on his way. At this point in time, I could be described as very timid. I had a lot going on in my personal life, so I hope you can all understand my reaction to what happens next. The man comes back from his room and slams his hand on the glass door, causing me to jump. Absolutely frightened, I look up to see him just staring at me. He cracks the door and puts his head through and says, "I can't get into my room. Why won't you let me into my room?" My only defense is trying to be helpful, so I replied, "Maybe there's something wrong with your key. Let me give you another one." The look he had in his eyes was inexplainable. I felt like I was in absolute danger. I handed him his new key, and he went back to his room. I tried texting Michael because he's the one who trained me, though it was in the middle of the night and he was asleep. I needed some guidance. With no reply from Michael, I noticed the man trudging down the stairs to come back. I go into absolute panic mode. I run into the back office and lock the door, and I pull out my pocket knife. It's important to keep protection when working at night. I hear the man in the office yelling, "Hello? Hello? Why won't you let me into my room? Do you not like me?" Me being an absolute idiot and not standing my ground and just calling the police when I'm feeling scared, I decided to take the situation on alone. I reply, "I'm just on the phone. I'll be right out." I then start calling Michael over and over for help. No answer. I decided to take a few breaths and then step out of the office. The man was not there. He was in the bathroom. I start hearing him talking to himself, angrily saying, "Kill her, kill her." My heart sank. Still being an idiot and not calling the police, he comes out, and I say, "Your key was broken. I'm sorry. Let me escort you to your room." He agrees, thankfully. I was wearing a long-sleeved sweater, so with my arms down, I was able to hide my knife in my hand while holding it. I begin to walk outside, and he seemed insistent to walk behind me. We begin making our way to the staircase and up towards his room. I was sweating from how nervous I was, continuously looking behind me to make sure he wasn't going to make a move. He stops at a room, and I stop at his room a few doors down. I smile and say, "Oh, that's the wrong room. This is your room," as he clearly said on the door. This whole time, he was going to someone else's room and trying to open the door. After letting him into his room, I quickly ran back to the office and locked the door, and I found out there was a lone woman staying in the other room he was trying to get into. The next person I checked in happened to be a police officer from a few towns away. I hesitated at first, but ended up confiding in him about the strange man. He didn't seem to mind and assured me he'd keep an eye out, just in case. Sure enough, the man returned the following night. But this time, I had the doors locked and told him the place was fully booked. When my boss returned from vacation, I filled him in on everything that had happened. Unfortunately, he didn't seem to take the situation all that seriously. I kept working the night shift there for another year, and while I witnessed plenty of odd things during that time, that encounter still stands out as one of the most disturbing. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more amazing video. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. All right, that's it for today. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.